If you can't be in the field chasing gun dogs, the next best thing is talking about it.
Join Wade and Thomas as we discover the people, the places, and the birds, and of course, the gun dogs that make upland hunting our passion.
This is the Setter Tales Podcast.
Hello, everybody, again. Welcome to this episode of the Setter Tales Podcast with Wade and Thomas over here. We've had a lot of things going on since we met last time. Tonight's episode, number 48, is brought to you by Highland Hunting in Riverside, Iowa. And so, as an update, we've got puppies, but I think the puppies are starting to go home to different places, right?
Yes, they are 7 weeks today, so everybody's pretty anxious to get them home. And one just took the long ride to Kentucky yesterday. He's actually going to be a horseback dog. So.
Wow.
I will have an opportunity here in about a month and a half to go with him on a little training seminar with his new owner. They're coming up this way, so
good.
We're going to meet at the breeder's place and get to see some. Hopefully, I'll get to see some fantastic dog work, and I'll just leave mine at home so I don't lower the average. But
well, knowing how CJ works in the field and the sire, I imagine that puppy will probably do really well in that environment.
Yeah, all the pups are. There's a couple left. I kind of got a couple people going, maybe not. So, but they're all going. As far as I know, right now, we're all going to trial homes. But one will be going to a younger gentleman down in Kansas who's always had golden retrievers. And
so this will be his first setter?
This will be his first setter.
Interesting.
And he says, I want a dog that's going to run hard and go big.
Well,
and I said,
baby.
I got one for you.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby. If he's a young man and has young legs, God bless him. But, and, speaking of, dogs and going to first-time hunters and somebody getting new that's getting into the sport, our guest tonight, Bret Ingram, is his story is kind of similar to that, and he got a dog. He fell kind of in love with the setter breeds after hunting behind several different ones, and we're going to talk to him tonight a little bit about the journey that he's taken with his dog Topa, and Topa's a beautiful dog, and maybe we'll get a shot of him on camera here sometime tonight. But we're going to just kind of talk about what it's like hunting down there in Alabama, and I don't think we've had anybody from Alabama on yet.
I don't think so. We'll put another pin on the map.
Put a pin in the map on that one, and so we'll bring Bret in here and we'll talk to him about what he's doing down there and his travels. And Bret, thank you for coming to the show tonight.
Hey guys, hey Thomas, hey Wade. It's an honor being on your show, guys.
Well, we appreciate that, and we always like to kind of hear some stories of guys that are hunting all across the country. We haven't had anybody from Alabama, so you're our first one. Hopefully, there you go. Hopefully there'll be some more, perhaps. But we kind of keep track on our little map here of all the different states that we've been hitting, and so you're kind of taking care of one of those for us tonight.
There you go.
I was mentioning it to Thomas, and I know we've talked a couple times on the phone, but you're kind of one of those individuals that kind of came into the hunting world, or at least the upland bird world, a little later in life. Thomas and I were kind of grew up in it. As kids, our families were hunters, and we were kind of introduced to it early in life. But what was your situation, Bret, and how did you first kind of get interested in hunting birds?
Yeah, well, in 2017, we moved back up to the Montgomery area. I was living in Spanish Fort, which is right outside of Mobile. And at the time, my wife was real sick. And so I wanted to move her back up to be with her family. So we moved back up, and on the way up here, my daughter, she's a softball player, and she's pretty good softball player. I thought she was at the time. And she wanted to make sure that she was going to be into a good softball school, but a good softball program as well. So I made a call to my coach and told him, hey, we're moving back up to this area. Do you have any recommendations on a good school for my daughter? She plays softball. So he was the coach. I didn't know it at the time, but he was the coach at my old school. Back when I was in school, he was the baseball coach, but he was coaching softball now. And he said, come on by and we'll take a look at her. And so we did. And so didn't know it at the time, but he's a big hunter. So in 2018, my wife passed away. And 2019, Coach one day said, "Hey man, come on up to the house, and I've got some hunt dogs, and you may like this." I said, "Well, the funny thing is, I've been dying to get out and do some upland hunting. Never done it before. So I don't know if you want me up there next to your dogs, but I'll come." And so I went up there, and the rest is history. I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I didn't say much when I was up there with Coach, but because I was in awe at how good the dogs were. I've never seen that before. And so it took my breath away. And I was like, man, this is something I really want to do. And so I've never turned back. I jumped in head first, and I dove off the high dive instead of the low diving board. I went all the way up to the top and dove straight in.
And I know you told me that in that experience, there were kind of different breeds of dogs and they're all good. They all are very impressive in the field and how they're trained.
Yeah.
But I think you told me that something caught your eye. One particular breed of dog really stood out in your mind. And what was that like when that dog came out of the box for the first time?
Yeah, well, and to add to the story, Wade, I was watching a lot of the YouTube videos when I first was getting into the hunting scene. Came across setter tails, and I saw Lou, Sweet Lou and Adeline, and I was like, oh wow, this is a pretty dog. And I've seen other YouTube videos, but something about that look, I knew this. I kept it in the back of my head. I liked the look of this dog. And so, but yeah, of course, Coach had Chris Goodman. Coach, he had German short hairs. So every time I'll go up to train with his pups, that's all I was accustomed to. Well, one afternoon, one of his buddies came. He had a Brittany and an English setter. Didn't know it at the time. The Brittany came out, and then all of a sudden I saw this English setter come out, and it took my breath away. The long tail, and I didn't know what all this the verbiage meant, but they said it was a field trial dog, and it was every bit of it. So yeah, the setter just, and I've been behind a lot of the pointers, the Brittany's, the short hairs, the wire hairs. But watching your show, I knew that the English setter, I need to keep an eye on that. And when I saw the English setter work in front of me, I knew that it's over. I don't need to look anymore. It's done deal.
And so shortly thereafter, you went on the search for your own setter. Is that right?
Yeah, and one of your you had Des was on your podcast before, right. And I actually got one of his blood. What's it? Lord, Prince of Paul's, Hank.
Right.
I've got some of his, or Topa. It's got some of his bloodlines. Went to looking for the loop, and I did some background work too, Wade. I wanted a dog that could turn it off inside the home too, sure. Yeah. But turn it on when it's out in the field. And Topa, he'll fool you. Right now he's laying by my feet, but when he's out in the field, and it too, when he's out in the field, he's a maniac.
Yeah, he knows
a good maniac.
Time to work. It's time to work.
Sure.
Well, let's have a look at that. Can we get a little glance of that boy there by your side?
Well, he's, like I said, when he's in the house, he's down.
He doesn't want to perform now.
He is out, guys.
That's all right.
That's all right. He, I've been bringing mine female into the house as of late, and we've weaned her off for puppies. So just trying to get her geared back up. You know, they pretty much suck them down to skin and bones, you know.
Yeah.
So she's living the lap of luxury in the house, you know, when I'm home, and she's got a, you wouldn't think it when you're around her in the field, but she's got an okay off button. But my cell phone is a pheasant cackle when it rings, and then and when I get a text message. So I've learned to change that here in the last few weeks again. She kind of forgot about it, and
That's good.
I've been kind of just keeping her close and not running her too hard because she's just so delicate, and she's got bags up, and that went off last night. And you talk about turning the switch on. We were back and forth to the front door. We were back and forth to the kitchen. We went to the water bowl 50 times, and it's like, all right, we're going to bed, and then she finally figured out, oh, okay, that was your phone, and she jumped up at the bed and went to sleep, So the off button, I think they all can have an off button. It's just if they're, a lot of the field trial dogs spend a lot of their time in the box. They're in the box or they're in the field, So
yeah, sometimes that off switches.
They
can be
don't
different
know the
dog
off
to dog.
switch, but you can really. It doesn't take long. These dogs are smart, and they're bred to please whoever is feeding them, and they kind of get the gist. Oh, okay, I got to chill out now. 9 puppies do not have an off switch unless they've just eaten. But
There you go.
But
Gotta
yeah,
imagine.
that's and we talk about. We've said this in the past, Wade. The poetic, I guess you want to call it poetry, when you watch all the other dogs, which are all great, but when a setter comes on point, that tail goes up, a little bit of wind, they get the feathering going, their head's up in the air, and they're proud. Most people, if they saw that as their first bird dog, I would probably come to assume you'd see a lot more of them.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty it's easy to fall in love with, but and don't get me wrong, everybody's got their preference, and I understand that. With it's kind of that Chevy and Ford thing, but so you started doing research, and you were looking for that dog that was going to be, inside when he wasn't in the field hunting and kind of chilled out and laid back, and so it sounds like you found him. And so how long did that process take?
Several months. Wade, yes, several months. I did a lot of background work. I asked a lot of people, called a lot of people, called breeders, different kind of the Gordon setters, the short hairs. I mean, the pointers, and like you said, Wade, they're all good dogs. They all point. They'll all find your birds. But for me, the style of the setter is it just does something to you. You really can't find a word other than it's pleasing to the eyes. Poetry in motion. Like you said, Thomas, it's poetry in motion. So yeah, but the background information, it came across a guy up in. He was out of Missouri. So I called him up, and he answered his phone right away. I'm sorry, it's out of Arkansas. Arkansas, yeah. So I called him up, and he picked up the phone, and we talked for about 45 minutes. And I was just asking him pros and cons, female, male. Can you tell me a little bit about how they are in the house? How long have you been doing this? The kennel. Can I come visit your kennel? So I asked all the good questions, and he had all the right answers. And I did. I made the trek. When I made the decision, he had a litter. He had 2 males and a female left. And not knowing what I really wanted, went up there, left at midnight one night by myself, and got there around 9 o'clock and visited with him, saw the kennel, and fell in love with one of the males, and it was Topa. And here we are today. And, he's taught me a lot more than I have ever taught him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't really understand that. I heard a lot of that, talking with a lot of hunters here in this area, a lot of trainers in the area, that sometimes they will teach you more than you teach them. And the Topa is a fine example of that.
Well, and then you're in a position when you have a dog of that caliber, then you feel responsible or the responsibility to learn more to enable that dog to reach its potential. And that comes back to how much time do you individually want to put into learning about training, and giving that dog those opportunities to be on birds and get it to, like I said, to that level where that dog can get to, and it's all about. There's so many dogs that have potential, but because of whatever situation they are in, they may not be on enough birds and be in the right situation with an owner where they don't get those opportunities that a lot of the other dogs do. I mean, how many dogs get to travel, across the Midwest once a year, or like your dog does? Not that many, but some of them do. And so, yeah, that's awesome. So you've just kind of had to become a student then of English setters and how to train them and how to hunt and strategies and all that stuff started just bombarding you, right?
Yeah, and you're talking about a fire hose to the mouth, and that was a great example of that. But it'll consume you, and because you want to do it the right way, or at least I did. I wanted to do it the right way. I wanted to teach him the right way. I wanted to do everything perfect. Now, not everything is going to be perfect, but that was my mindset going into it. And the good thing about it is that Chris Goodman, coach, he was a trainer and has trained many fine bird dogs. So I had him to fall back on. Matter of fact, we went as soon as I got Topa, went straight up there a couple of days, so we can visit. And he broke out a quail wing. And boom, he pointed, and it was the prettiest thing. And I just raised my hands. I was like, okay, I've got a winner.
Yeah.
So yeah, it started. We started training guys 2 or 3 days after I got back into town when I got them.
Yeah, and haven't stopped since.
Haven't stopped since. The funny thing is, when the puppy walks that we did, I trained or tried to teach on the puppy walks 1 or 2 things as we're doing the puppy walks, doing the yard work, whether it be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I wanted to do it daily, and then put him on at the time when the time was right to put him on the birds. Once I got the commands down, his mannerisms down. We put him on birds, and at that time I was training with him 2 days a week, and then still doing my puppy walks and the yard work daily, morning and evening. And it has really paid off.
Sure.
Really paid off. Yeah.
Yeah. And you said you learn just as much from him as he is from you, and Wade and I, and I'm sure you can too, is you attest to that about every hunt. You kind of do should have just trusted the dog, and something always happens. So, and you've did it everything the right way. Is I'm getting calls and messages, and you did your research, and just as I did for my breeding, I've been planning this since the first bird she pointed 4 years ago. So it's good that you went and did the research and you go, okay, this is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. And that, especially with your first bird dog and you just started, you did exactly the way it should be done. There's too many people that just go, oh, look, puppies for sale. I'm going to buy one. And I'm sure they don't do it right. They don't do the puppy walks. They don't do all the things that go with owning a puppy to turn it into a hunting dog. And it sounds like you took the advice and just did the right thing. And I mean, there's shelters full of dogs that people just didn't know what they had or what they were getting.
They just didn't want to put the time in.
I just want to commend you. You did that the right way. So
Thank you.
you went hunting, you got the dog, you love the dog, you're still working with him. How is your hunting journey? So it's been so short. How has that progressed from, hunting local to branching out and going all over the country?
Yeah. And you can still remember the first point. I know I do. But yeah, so we trained Topa, and Chris trains all of his dogs on, of course, pen raised quail and pigeons. We did a lot of pigeon work. And so the first several months, we introduced the pigeons through the launchers. And then we introduced the pistol. And then we decided, okay, well, we need to put him in the field, because this was all at Chris's place, which is 45 minutes from where I live. So we all did that in front of his house, and he's got a good training facility. So we went into the field, and my emotions, and I have always tried, guys, and this is good for the listeners. I have always, in my training with Topa, I wanted to keep that calm, even demeanor throughout, whether it be yard work, walking, running, pigeon work, quail work. I wanted to keep that even keel to help him learn and to appreciate me more. I never wanted my emotions to take over that training portion of the day, because you can never get that day back. So that's one of the things that I really instilled in when I train. I had to clear my head. Okay, guys, I'm going to be even keel. Thomas, you mentioned it. You do everything. You listen. You watch videos. You do your pre-work before you get out in the field. And this is what we're going to do, Chris. And I want him to come at this angle because the wind's blowing this way, and he's got the better opportunity to smell the birds. And I want it to because we only do 2 or 3 runs. Because listen, guys, and in the summertime down here in Alabama, you only have 15, 20 minutes to get your work in, because it is so blooming hot, and the humidity level is just it. I think they said, what is it? If the temperature and the humidity level reaches, 130, 135, that it's not recommended for you to train. And it may be a little bit higher. I can't remember the exact numbers, but so you have to do your training early morning, late in the evening. So you got to make every run count. So during the training phase for Topa, it really wasn't hard. He learned very quickly. It may have taken on a certain run once or twice, and then going back the following 2 days after that, during that first week, we had to make 1 or 2 runs to get him to remember what he did the previous day. But I would say after the first 2 weeks, we just had to clean up some of the style points, from where we were before, and we were just doing style work after that, which Topa has on his points. It's funny, as the years go, but when I say the years, it's only been 2 years, but for me, in the second year, I have noticed that with Topa, he has his tails are pointed in a different angle. If he smells a bird, his tail is horizontal. But if that bird starts to walk or move on him, that tail will go straight up. If he sees them, that tail will go straight up. And then when he's backing, the tail is a little bit lower, which I don't know if you have that, if you see that with your dogs, but I have learned that in my second year with Topa. I don't know if you guys have I don't even know if that's a thing, I don't know.
Yeah, I think
But
that's
it's
probably
interesting to
true.
see.
I think that's I think that's the thing, that when you hunt a dog long enough, an individual dog, you learn to recognize those little, you know, I always call it the tail of the tail, like a
Yeah.
tail in poker. There's always that change in the motion or something the dog does. And sometimes it's so fine that nobody else would even pay attention to it, but because you've seen it so many times. But you're right, you can kind of tell when the dog has hit scent and changes its quartering pattern that it's doing, and the tail, either the speed of the tail, we refer to it as a tail whip. It'll either, some dogs it speeds up, sometimes it slows down depending on the individual dog. But as a guide specifically, when you're trying to get hunters on birds, those are those important communications that you're making with your dog. Okay, my dog's telling me that, something's going to happen here in front of us. And so you're trying to get everybody ready, well, how do you know that? Well, I just know it, but that dog's, is telegraphing that to us as guides, and as you as owner as well. So yeah, I've seen that many times, and each dog's a little different, but I can see that happening. And you'll learn more the more times and the more years you spend over with that dog, you'll see that more often in different ways.
I thought it was interesting because I learned so much the first year, and here the second year, this is going to be the second year that I'm going to hunt behind them, and I can't wait for the hunting season it's here, but can't wait to get out there with them.
Now in Alabama, you talked about how hot it is,
Oh,
specifically kind of during the training season in the summer and into the early fall, like we're in right now. It's starting to cool down here in Iowa and starting to feel a little more like hunting season for us, but it's been brutally hot here this summer. And so we were kind of in the same situation. You just couldn't really have a dog out for any extended period of time if you had a dog working outside in the field. But for Alabama, typically in the quail season, what's that like, hunting quail? Are there a lot of wild quail still around if you have access and can find them, or are they really pretty hard to find?
yeah, they're hard to find. Now you can find them on, of course, preserves. Of course, they have pen raised there too, but they have some leftovers from the pen raised. But they actually have some wild coveys there. But it's mainly going to be on the private land is where you're going to see your wild coveys. Matter of fact, last year, me and Coach Chris Goodman, we went to a WMA here in Alabama, and we didn't know what to expect. We hope for the best, expected the worst, or vice versa, whatever. But we knew that it was going to be a tough go, and sure enough, we didn't even see a covey in this WMA. But it's mainly going to be on the private lands. Matter of fact, a buddy of mine in my hunting circle, Jacob Walker, he's got a lot of property, and for 3 years now, he's really done a lot of work on his property, and we're seeing some wild coveys on his property. Matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, we went out there on a Saturday run, and we saw some baby quail and saw a couple of coveys on his property. So hopefully in the very near future, it's going to be ready for us. To get out there and have some fun.
So when you're not, I know we've talked about this on the phone, but I know when you always make at least one, what I'd call a major trip I know you've been to South Dakota, obviously, and you told me you actually came to Iowa. Was it last year that you were in Iowa hunting pheasants for the first time?
Yeah, and that was Topa's first trip. And we went to Iowa, and hey, Iowa's got birds, guys. We had a blast.
We don't put that out there, but no, in Western Iowa, where you were, specifically has long had good quality number of birds over the years, even when some of the other areas have gotten kind of scarce. And so you were probably out there in a pretty nice area out there where you were at. But so was that the first time Topa saw a pheasant? Then is when he got dumped out in the field there in Iowa? Is that how that went down?
Yeah, the funny story, Wade, is that's the first time that he's ever seen a pheasant. The
Anything
first
that
day we
big?
put him on the, I'm sorry,
I said anything that big that was flying in the
but
air.
it scared him to death. He didn't know what to do. Uh, and we knew it going in. Of course, we had the veterans on the ground too with him. But yeah, the first one that he came across, of course, he flushed it and scared him to death. Didn't know what to do, and that was early morning. But the good thing is, and it really made me proud that later on in the afternoon we got him back out for his third run that day. And I don't know if he flushed it or I don't. The guy that shot him, we still don't know. But we couldn't find it, or he couldn't find it. So we brought Topa was over there near it, and we just stayed with it and kept giving Topa the dead bird command. That's what we give Topa, dead bird. And sure enough, he came up with it. He was buried in a snow. I call it a snowbank. Of course, Alabama, this could be a snowbank for me. But he was nestled down in the snow,
sure.
and Topa found him, and I felt like, okay, this is good. So I felt really proud for him. So my hunt trip was over. I could have come home.
Can't get
after
any
that.
better than this, right?
Yeah.
Might
I
as
was
well
like,
just stop right now.
I'm good. And the second day we were there, he pointed. He finally pointed in front of me, but it was a hen. But so that was a good trip for him. That was his first trip, and he learned. I thought he learned pretty quickly after in one day, in three trips out in the field that he finally figured out what a pheasant was.
Yeah. It's amazing that the CJ had that same experience. We got on a place and she was just a little pup and had an older male with me, and he was pretty well just knocking them one right after another, and birds everywhere. And so I actually told the guy in the group, I said, call her and walk that way a little bit, and I'll keep him over here. Let's see if she can just figure it out. She's there, she's honoring points, she's chasing the down birds, but let's see if she can just figure, she's had birds in her mouth. Let's see if she does it, And pretty soon I heard a holler from 200 yards away and goes, hey, this little dog's pointing. Bird got up. He shot it. She brought it to him, and that's all it took, So, and
yeah, that's usually how.
Then we just separated her out and hunted her the rest of the afternoon. I think we shot 2 limits off her. We were in the mecca of bird hunting where it hadn't been hunted in years, and there's birds everywhere, and it's just like, okay, now we got a dog, now we got a separator. So just that one bird he found was probably all it took, and okay, we're out here, they're not putting these out here for me, these are just running around in Iowa. These pheasants have legs on them, and having a hen is probably the best scenario for a young dog, because hens, they don't tend to run as much. They just hunker down and sit. So from that, did you see immediate improvement, for your next day's hunting or your following trips?
Yeah, Tom, I did because the first couple of days he did quarter, and he came and he checked back in. However, the quartering was 30, 40, 50 yards, which is good. But by the third day, guys, he was getting out there 70, 80, 90, 100 yards. Easy. And coming back, checking in, and then quartering again, coming back and checking. So, yeah, the improvement was phenomenal. Like I said, I don't know if I just got the luck of the draw and I got lucky. Somebody's looking out for me. I don't know, but it just seems like Topa learns and so quickly, in my experience. Of course, it's this is of course from the third-year hunter here, but from what I have seen, excuse me, what I've seen from other dogs that are puppies, still puppies, that of course, comparing a setter to a short hair, that's not fair, because they're all they're all gonna find birds. But I have just seen in Topa in mine that he learned very quickly.
Yeah, and you give them the tools before you get out into the field. You see it where people don't. They're like, "Oh, he's a hunt dog. He's just gonna do this," and no matter what the breed. But if you give them the tools before you take them out, I mean, it's no different than your daughter going to softball practice every day, and as she has more games, more practices, the better she gets, obviously. So that's just something that when you give the dog the right tools and then show them the way, that's when that dog starts teaching us, and it's amazing how they can do it.
Yeah. So you've got I think you're breaking some new ground. I think this year you're going after grouse, right? You've never done that before?
Never done that before.
So you just keep setting that bar higher and higher, don't you?
You think I've learned by now, eh?
And so this will be another species for Topa as well, then, right?
It's going to be another one.
Well, and up there you'll probably get in some other kinds of birds as well. I mean,
we hope that we can get into some grouse, some sharpies, sharp-tailed grouse, and of course the Hun population, I've heard, has done very well up there. And so we're definitely going to be in that grouse and pheasant and Hun habitat where we're going. We're going to Mott, North Dakota.
Okay.
We're going to be staying in Mott. And so I'll tell you what, Onyx, I don't know if you guys ever used Onyx, but that is a great tool. I have really done some scouting with that Onyx, and hopefully it pans out. My mentor, Chris Goodman, he's one of the old guys that likes the paperback editions.
The old Platt book. The old Platt book.
Yeah.
The old Platt, that's right.
The hunting atlas.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to teach him about Onyx, because either he's going to have to drive and I'm going to have to navigate, or he's got to learn that Onyx real quickly.
So what's the best lesson you've learned about traveling long distances with a hunting dog? Have you had any experiences that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, I have. It's funny. The first trip we went to South Dakota, guys, I had one of our buddies. His name was Travis. He brought a sleeping bag, and at the time I was like, "What is he bringing a sleeping bag for?" I just like, whatever. Okay, he's going to put it on his bed. He likes a sleeping bag, keeps him warm, whatever. And so we were driving up South Dakota, and it took us about 18, 19 hours. And we pulled into a Walmart parking lot around 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was 33 or 34 degrees. So Chris was in the back. I was driving, rookie, right? And then Travis was over here, shotgun. We parked car. Chris said, just park right here. So we parked in the Walmart parking lot. Travis breaks out his sleeping bag, puts it on top of him, zips it up, and he's out. He's out cold. Chris is in the back. He has all these jackets piled up on top of him. And I just have a long sleeve shirt on, jeans, and my shoes. And he was like, "Okay, guys, I'll see you about 8 o'clock." And he was out. And so here I was in the driver's seat. I didn't have anything to keep me warm. And I froze the entire time. I did not sleep a wink. Between them snoring, because both of them snored, between them snoring and me shivering to death, that was one of the longest nights. And I was like, "Oh, okay, there was another rookie mistake, right?" Yeah.
There's a reason they bring guys like you along, right? On that first hunt.
You should have brought the dog in and had the dog curl up in you, because they will keep you warm. But from where you hunt in Alabama, is obviously you're going from one end of the country to the other. And I did actually read today that North Dakota's bird numbers are sky high.
Yeah.
Like they had an 18% increase on
There you go.
grouse, pheasant. It
No,
was
no excuses.
like one of the records that they've had, surprisingly, for as dry
Thanks,
as
Wade.
they've been and
No
wet
excuses
winters.
now.
But they had a horrible winter, like a terrible winter. So
Yeah.
that was good to see that their numbers are shooting up. But you gotta, down there you're probably hunting in a light long sleeve t-shirt or something that's breathable, but you're going to keep you from getting cut up from all the burrs and thorns and whatever. What do you pack like when you go up there? Are you got your overalls on and your heavy coat and your
No, I really don't. Matter of fact, I will have a long sleeve T-shirt on. Well, this is what I wore in Iowa because I was telling Wade that when I was in Iowa, that it got down to, well, I don't know if I told you this, Wade, or not, but it got down to 18 degrees that one day. And of course, it snowed that when we were there. And I was like, Wade, do you remember the time it snowed there in Iowa? And that's when we were there. And he was like, no, Brett, it snows quite often up here in Iowa. And I'm like, okay, I forgot, an Alabama guy. If it snows, it's you write it down in the calendar and you'll remember forever. And so I felt real stupid about that. But yeah, so no, the temperature is probably going to be, Thomas, it's probably going to be in the upper 60s during the day and in the low 40s. So I will probably just wear a t-shirt and maybe a sweatshirt and a good upland pair of pants, and we'll bring a couple of pair of boots. Just don't know what what that terrain is going to be. I heard of kind of what it's going to be, but just don't know what it's going to be. But yeah, that's probably what I'm going to wear. Guys, whenever you get out there, it doesn't really matter the temperature. It could be 30 degrees, but if you're walking behind your dog, you warm up real quick.
Yeah,
it's
when you stop that you have the problem, because
when you stop is when you have a problem. Yeah.
So how many dogs are you taking up there? Obviously Topa, but you're going to have some other dogs as well, I assume.
Yeah, so we're taking 6, 7, 8, 9. So we'll have 9 up there.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, we're going to have plenty of dog power. We're going to we've got a Brittany, a lab, setter, and then a fill-bred English cocker, and then the rest are going to be short hairs. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I do have to ask though, in Iowa, you always dress over too warm because you can always shed some. So that's our piece of advice. If you know it's going to get cool, you can always take clothes off. But if you don't have them, you can't put them on. But
and take the sleeping bag this time as well.
Take the sleeping bag.
So
no more rookie mistakes.
So this is probably a good group of guys that you hunt with all the time. So, but do they give you grief when they let out their short hair and they let out their Brittany and their lab and obviously the English cocker is a whole different story, which that is on my bucket list of dogs to have in my kennel someday. But do they give you grief about bringing out the setter at all, or?
Well, yeah,
I always get grief. So
yeah, they do, Thomas. But it's all jealous. They're all jealous.
Yeah, that's what I always say too.
It's the jealousy part of it. They can't help it. Bless their hearts.
Yeah. So for 3 years of hunting, he's already got the lingo down. So I'd say you're on it. You're on the right track.
Yeah.
So, with your, so on your list that you've already taken is pheasant and quail. Is that all that you've hunted that Topa has on his, I guess the notch in his belt, or is there any other birds that he's excelled at or hunted with?
No, it's pheasant and quail are the only two that he's had experience with. And hopefully, guys, we get up to North Dakota and we just, and I say this, I hope we get into a mess of them. But yeah, I do want to for one or two just for Topa's sake. But I really want to see good dog work. And I really didn't know what that meant when I first heard it. I want to see great dog work. But I do know what it means now, and it means a lot to an owner, to a trainer when they see the great dog work. But yeah, I want Topa to to get rewarded, absolutely. But I want him to have a good time, and I want to see him out in the prairie, um, just doing his thing. But here in South Dakota and really in Iowa, man, the grass was just so tall, and you really couldn't keep a good track on him in the field. And hopefully, when we get out there to Mott and that surrounding area, that you're really able to see him to go out that 100 yards and just really watch him work. I'm really anticipating that and looking forward to that part of it. Yeah, I
Just
mean, if I get a bird, if I bag, harvest one or two of each, yeah, okay, whatever. But I really want to see that.
Sure.
now, does he? And you'll probably notice this after when you get him on the big prairie, but does he kind of get the gist of like when you're hunting? If like you're down where you're at, it's probably open country and thickets and whatnot, and then you get up to Iowa where it's big, heavy, thick grass. Does he adjust to that, or like if you're in a lull where you're not getting into the birds, you're in a not a so good spot, will he work out and work a little harder to find birds, or does he just kind of keep a I'm going to stay with where I'm supposed to be, or are you allowed, do you allow him to get out any farther than 100 yards if he has to, or does he just know, hey, I got to get moving and get these birds corralled up?
Yeah, no, he will extend out. He'll look for the birds. Of course, I really, being here in Alabama in the pines, you it's kind of hard to say here what he can do because it's not really thick, but it is thick. Out in Iowa, he's like the third day. I noticed that him wanting to go out further than the 30, 40, 50 yards the first couple of days. So yeah, from what I have seen, Thomas, yeah, he will get out there and start extending himself and learning, which is the most important. It's almost like he wants to learn and wants to hunt for me or whomever's beside me that he's in front of. That's what I see.
Have you embraced the whole GPS technology with his training and hunting?
I have, and this is the reason why. I I have hunted around guys that all you hear is, "Hey, here, and doing the whistle and a lot of that going on, and I didn't like it, and that was the first year I started hunting. I really didn't like that. I wasn't too thrilled about that, and so I I wanted to provide something for Topa that I would not have to say here, although he knows what here means. Uh, I wanted him to know what the tone meant. I've only shot my dog one time, and that's by design. I didn't feel good about doing it. Now, of course, your old timers, they probably will say, yeah, you need to just to get them to do what they want to do. But with Topa, it's again, he just learned so quickly that I didn't have to, and I put the belly collar on him, but I've never had to use it. But so I wanted to use a device to where I could tone him or vibrate him, and he knew what it meant. And now it's gotten to the point in my second year of training where I can, point in a certain direction, whoa him, and point in a direction, and that's what he'll go. And so now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to teach him a tone, like for instance, one tone to the right, two tones to the right, to the left. And so that's what I'm going to try to do this year. I'm focusing in on doing that because I really don't like to hear a lot of whoa and hey and Topa here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to hear that when I'm hunting. No disrespect if you guys do it. I just don't like to hear that.
And it causes confusion when there's multiple dogs. And it sounds like you guys got plenty of years to learn all that stuff, and it sounds like you're doing a phenomenal job. But when we get close to the end of the show, I know you've only done it for 3 years, so the best story should still be in your mind. But as far as And even if it wasn't, with Topa, what is your favorite hunting memory so far, or something with him? I know you talked about the snowbank, but kind of give us a little closing story on your favorite hunting story or your dog story.
Well, the snowbank is probably one of the better stories. But one of my favorite stories, guys, was when Topa was a puppy. We were at Coach Goodman's front yard training, and of course I had the collar on him and with the lead rope, and he was going, and it was cut, and so he was going around. He was following that cut line, and I just happened to look up at the right time, and as Topa was walking or kind of prancing along there, all of a sudden it was a stop, and his head just turned, and it was just a staunch point. And guys, he was probably 6 or 7 months old. And for me, I was like, oh wow, this looks pretty good. So that was that, and seeing him do that at a young age and such a staunch point, and as he's moving, I mean, it was stopped on a dime and turned toward the scent. That was very memorable to me because I knew that the style was going to be there. His nose was definitely there, and that all the hard work that I put into him up to that point was verified. So I knew I was doing a good job.
Yeah, preview of things to come, good things to come in the future. So
Sure. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
and those things, those events like that, certainly, gives you that motivation to keep doing what you're doing. When you're thinking there, man, maybe my training isn't having an effect, and then you see the dog do that, and then you realize, okay, now we can keep going. We're gonna make this happen. This dog's got the goods. This dog is really gonna be something special, as he's turned out to be. But we're gonna close here in a little bit, but I know you're going up there to North Dakota, and what we might want to do, I talked about this with you, is, after you're up there a day or two, we might check in with you over your phone like we're doing tonight, and just kind of give us an update on how it's going and what the experience has been like, and maybe kind of give us a Topa update on grouse. And we think it'd be fun to do, and we'll maybe get you on and we'll chat with you a little bit more about that, because I have not been to North Dakota, so I may have to put that on my bucket list.
Okay, well, I'm going to come by next time. I'm going to swing by Iowa and pick you guys up, and we're going to have to go up there together.
But I don't drive, so I'm that guy that's going to be in a sleeping bag sleeping while you're driving 18 hours or whatever it is to get up there. I don't do that too well anymore. But hey, we really appreciate the time chatting with you about. We could do this all night and talking to anybody that's found a dog and has found a sport that they love and have really developed a passion for it. And that's what we need in the sport to keep it going is, gentlemen like you that have found a great dog and now are spreading the word to other people and hopefully taking somebody else under your wing that maybe hasn't tried the sport before and get them out there. And so, I appreciate, I'll take credit or some credit for maybe that you're out there living the dream because, of maybe watching a video years ago that
Sweet
Lou
did it. Sweet Lou did it.
Well, he would, that's good. He would rest good knowing that he's got another dog out there following in his footsteps perhaps. But no, we really appreciate it. We'll hopefully check in with you again, and you get back to Iowa one of these times. We're around, and we might have a honey hole of our own that we can get you on one of these days. So take care. We appreciate it.
Look forward to it, guys. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, good luck up there on your trip,
Bret.
and be safe. And we'll talk to you later.
That's a feel-good story.
Yeah. Well, that's what it should be about.
He dipped his toes in the water a little bit and fell in love right away.
Yeah, and anybody can do it.
I think a lot of upland hunter guys, people that have started late in life, or even when they're like I did when I couldn't even carry a gun. It's just that first time you see it, you're hooked.
And he's obviously taken it to that next level and has, and
Yeah.
will continue to try to experience different kind of birds, and that's great. So,
Learning together with your dog is
Yeah.
always the best way.
and for everybody else out there, if you haven't tried upland hunting, do so. Find a mentor, find somebody, and Thomas is doing that with the youth all the time. But you can find somebody that's willing to take you along. A lot of old hunters like me sometimes want somebody just to kind of go along with them to experience the trip and the dog work. So they're out there. Give it a try.
There's a lot of organizations that help out with that. So just get on the old interwebs and
Yeah.
hit the old Google machine, and you'll find something. And Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever do that. We both belong to them, so they're a
Yeah.
big thing. But
and
another show's done.
and subscribe. Help us out. Send us some questions and tell us what you like, and we'll try to get some. We've got some good guests coming on in the next few weeks, so keep with us and take somebody hunting.
Keep their nose in the wind.